Let's talk about the guy who thought he was making a power move, when in reality, he was making the biggest mistake of his life. He had your heart, your effort, your loyalty. But when the moment came to choose, he didn't choose love. He didn't choose honesty. He chose ego. And now, that choice is breaking him. Because karma doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Sometimes it shows up in the quiet moments, the nights he scrolls through old messages, the pictures he can't delete, the version of you he'll never get back. This is what happens when ego wins the battle, but costs him everything. He thought pride was power, that by holding back, staying distant, or refusing to be vulnerable, he was maintaining control. He believed that showing emotion would make him weak, that needing someone, truly needing someone, would give them too much leverage over him. So he armored up with ego. He made decisions not from a place of love or authenticity, but from a place of self-preservation. He wanted to be the one who was wanted, not the one doing the wanting. He thought that was strength. He thought that was how you win. But here's the thing, ego can feel like power in the moment. It's a quick hit. You keep your pride. You don't apologize first. You don't say, "I miss you." You act unfazed. You pretend you're fine. And maybe for a while that works. Maybe you even believe your own performance. But eventually the silence gets louder. The pretending gets harder. And the person who used to be there, the one who saw past your walls, who gave you chance after chance, who loved you despite your armor, they stop waiting. They stop fighting for someone who won't meet them halfway. And that's when the illusion of control starts to crack, because pride might feel powerful, but it doesn't hold your hand when you're alone. It doesn't send that "thinking of you" message when you're drowning in regret. It doesn't fill the space where someone once loved you deeply. Pride can win an argument, but it can't keep you warm at night. Ego will help you look good in front of other people, but it doesn't help you sleep when all you're left with is the thought, "I pushed away the one person who actually saw me." He's realizing that now, that he didn't push you away because you weren't enough. He pushed you away because he was terrified of being seen without the mask of pride. Because vulnerability felt like a threat, and he chose the comfort of control over the discomfort of connection. That's the tragedy of it. He didn't have to lose you. You weren't asking him to be perfect. You weren't asking him to abandon himself. You just wanted him to show up for you. To meet you in the middle, to choose something real, instead of always trying to protect an image of himself that he thought would make him more desirable, more powerful, more in charge. But real love doesn't need a performance. It needs truth. It needs presence. It needs two people willing to risk a little ego in exchange for something so much deeper. And now, he's left with all the things he thought mattered: his pride, his independence, his ability to say, "I didn't chase anyone." But those things don't talk back when he's sitting in the dark, remembering the sound of your laugh. They don't offer comfort when he sees you out there, thriving without him, finally giving your love to someone who doesn't flinch when things get real. He might still look composed on the outside, but inside is where the regret lives. Inside is where the price of ego gets paid. And the cruelest part is, he'll never admit it out loud. Maybe to his friends he'll still play it cool. Maybe he'll say, "It just didn't work out." But deep down he knows. He knows it wasn't bad timing, it wasn't miscommunication, it wasn't even you, it was him. His fear, his pride, his decision to protect his ego at the expense of everything that actually mattered. He chose to win the argument instead of choosing you. In the heat of the moment, he cared more about being right than being connected. You weren't trying to attack him. You weren't trying to dominate him. You were trying to explain how you felt, hoping he would meet you in that vulnerable space. But instead of listening, he got defensive. He twisted your words, minimized your emotions, and turned it into a competition, one he had to win. Every disagreement became a battlefield, and he made sure he walked away feeling like the victor. What he didn't realize was that every time he won, He chipped away at something far more valuable: your trust, your safety, your willingness to open up. He thought power was in proving a point, in maintaining control, in being the one who never backed down. But relationships aren't about power. They're about partnership. And in a partnership, it doesn't matter who's right if both people feel wrong. You didn't need him to agree with everything you said. You needed him to hear you, to understand where you were coming from, to say, "I see why you feel that way." But instead, he acted like acknowledging your emotions would mean admitting defeat, like compromise was weakness, like compassion was surrender. So he pushed back harder. He shut down or blew up. He walked away mid-conversation. He'd say, "You're too sensitive," or "You're overreacting," as if that somehow made the issue go away. But it didn't. It just taught you that your feelings weren't safe with him. That the more honest you were, the more likely he was to make you feel small for it. And over time, that's exactly what he did. He made you feel like your emotions were a burden, like your expectations were unreasonable, like your needs were too much. But here's the truth: you were never asking for too much. You were asking for the bare minimum. A real connection, honest communication, mutual respect. You were asking to be chosen not just when things were easy, but especially when things got hard. And he couldn't do it. Not because he didn't care deep down, but because his ego couldn't handle being wrong. He saw vulnerability as weakness, not as the bridge it is. So he chose the argument. He chose silence. He chose to walk away from moments where closeness could have been built. And now he's starting to realize that he wasn't winning anything. He was just slowly losing you. Regret always feels heaviest in hindsight. In the moment, he thought he was doing the smart thing. He thought he was protecting his pride. But now he sees you differently. He remembers how patient you were, how you kept trying, how you gave him the benefit of the doubt over and over again. And he knows now he wasn't protecting the relationship. He was protecting his ego at your expense. Now, when you're not there to text, to call, to calm the storm, the silence hits differently. It's not peace, it's absence. It's the echo of all the conversations he shut down, all the chances he had to say, "I understand you," and didn't. He sees other people, but they don't challenge him the way you did. They don't make him grow. They don't call him out in a way that feels like love. And he misses that. He misses you. Not just your presence, but the version of himself he could have become if he had chosen to show up with you instead of proving you wrong. And the hardest pill to swallow. He can't go back and undo it. Words were said. Trust was broken. And even if he's ready to choose you now, it's too late. Because the version of you that begged to be chosen is gone. You learned to choose yourself. And that's the one argument he can't win. Karma isn't always dramatic. It doesn't always come as some loud event or obvious punishment. It doesn't always look like someone getting exactly what they deserve in front of the world's eyes. Most of the time, karma is quiet. It's subtle. It lives in the still moments, in the thoughts that creep in when the noise dies down. And for him, karma looks a lot like seeing your reflection in every person who doesn't compare. It's the slow, painful realization that he had something rare, someone who loved him, challenged him, saw him, and he chose to take it for granted. Now that you're gone, karma isn't about something happening to him. It's about what he's left with now that you're no longer there. He thought he could replace you. That maybe he could find someone who didn't call him out when he retreated, someone who didn't push for depth, someone who wouldn't make him look in the mirror. But what he's finding out now is that those replacements fall flat. The conversations are surface level. The connections don't hit as deeply. The energy is different. And with every person he entertains, there's this unspoken comparison he tries not to make. But he always does. She doesn't laugh like you. She doesn't challenge him like you. She doesn't bring the same peace or fire or depth. And that contrast, that's karma. You were the mirror. You held up a reflection of him that was honest. You saw his potential, even when he didn't. And instead of stepping into that, he resented it. He resented being seen so clearly. He didn't want to face the parts of himself you lovingly pointed out. The fear, the defensiveness, the patterns. He confused comfort with love and ego with strength. So when you held up that mirror, he looked away. And when you walked away, you took that mirror with you. Now he's left chasing things that don't satisfy him, wondering why it all feels so empty. He tells himself he's fine. He distracts himself with new people, work, parties, silence. But none of it fills the space you used to occupy. That's what karma looks like. It's not revenge. It's reflection. It's seeing the truth of what he lost without being able to undo it. It's watching you glow up, grow stronger, move on, and realizing that you gave him the kind of love that actually could have changed his life, if he'd only been ready to receive it. And maybe the worst part isn't even the loneliness. Maybe the worst part is knowing that you would have forgiven him. That if he'd just humbled himself, softened, spoken with honesty instead of ego, you would have stayed. You weren't asking him to be perfect. You were asking him to be real, to show up, to try. But instead of rising to meet you, he shrunk away into his pride. And now, karma has taken the form of watching someone else experience the version of you he never fully appreciated. Someone else gets the love he misread, mishandled, and misunderstood. So he scrolls through old photos, plays back conversations, wonders what he missed. And the answer is simple. He missed you, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, the full weight of your presence. And now the mirror is permanent. Every time he meets someone new, every time he thinks about love, every time he looks back, he'll see you, not as a punishment, but as a lesson. Karma doesn't scream, it whispers, this is what you had, and this is what you lost when you weren't brave enough to hold it. He regrets it most now that you don't need him anymore. For the longest time, he believed you would always be there. That no matter how distant he became, how many times he shut you out, how often he let his pride lead instead of his heart, you would still be waiting. You had always been patient, always forgiving, always the one reaching out, checking in, giving the benefit of the doubt. He saw that as a guarantee, like your love was a constant, no matter what he did. And because of that, he never truly feared losing you. Not really, that was his mistake. He underestimated what would happen the day you finally stopped showing up. He didn't expect you to pull your energy back. He didn't think you'd actually walk away. Because in his mind, you needed him. He convinced himself that you were the one who had more to lose, that your emotions made you the one more invested. And now, that belief has shattered. Because the moment you stopped calling, stopped explaining, stopped trying to fix what he kept breaking, he felt it. The shift, the space you used to fill with love, effort, and understanding went quiet. And that silence is louder than anything he's ever heard. He regrets it because it's hitting him now. You never needed him. You chose him. There's a big difference. Needing someone implies dependence. But choosing someone every day when you don't have to, that's real love. That's commitment. That's depth. And he took that for granted. He thought he had time. He thought you'd always come back, always care just enough to stay. He didn't see that you were slowly detaching, that every time he pushed you away, a part of you started to believe him, that maybe he didn't value you as much as he claimed, that maybe love shouldn't be so one-sided. Now that you've stopped needing him, he's feeling what you felt for so long: uncertainty, distance, fear. The tables have turned, and he's the one wondering what you're thinking, who you're with, whether you ever think of him the way he can't stop thinking about you. Regret creeps in not during the arguments, not during the chaos, but in the quiet moments. In the mornings, when he instinctively reaches for his phone, but there's no message from you. In the nights when he wants to talk but knows the door he used to walk through has been closed, gently, finally, for good. He starts to understand that what you gave wasn't desperate, it was rare. You gave your full self. You didn't hold back. You loved with openness, even when he didn't fully meet you there. And when you loved him, you made it easy for him to believe he was enough. even when he wasn't showing up as his best self. That kind of love doesn't come around often. It doesn't get replaced, and that's the part he regrets the most. Not just that he lost you, but that he never really showed up for the person you were when you were giving him everything. And now that you don't need him, now that you've remembered your worth, now that you've stepped into a version of yourself that doesn't beg, doesn't wait, doesn't chase, he's realizing what he cost himself. Not just you, but the future you could have built together. Not just a relationship, but a once-in-a-lifetime connection that could have grown into something extraordinary if only he'd been brave enough to choose it before it was too late. He thought you'd wait. That was the foundation of every careless word, every cold shoulder, every ignored message. Deep down, he believed that no matter how far he pushed you, no matter how long he took to come around, you'd still be there. He thought time was on his side, that he could take a break from being present, from showing effort, from making you feel chosen, because you'd wait. You always had. You'd stayed through the confusion, the mixed signals, the periods where you didn't even recognize the version of him you were holding on to. He thought your love was a guarantee, something solid and unshakable, something he could come back to whenever he felt ready. What he didn't understand is that time doesn't pause for ego. Life keeps moving, and people, especially people who are learning to love themselves, eventually stop standing still. You might have stayed longer than you should have. You might have given him more chances than most people would. But you weren't going to stay forever. There was always going to be a moment when the silence got too loud, when the effort became too one-sided, when your love for him couldn't keep outweighing the love you were finally giving yourself. He thought love meant someone would endure him, no matter how unavailable or emotionally distant he became. He thought the strength of the connection meant he didn't have to nurture it. But love isn't sustained by memory. It's sustained by presence, by showing up, by choosing someone again and again, even when it's hard. And when he stopped choosing you, when he made you feel like a backup plan instead of a priority, he started the countdown without realizing it. Because that's the thing about strong people with soft hearts. They don't break all at once. They break slowly, quietly, until one day they stop needing the apology. They stop looking back. And when they leave with finality, not to punish, not to play games, but because something inside them healed enough to say, I can't stay in a place where I'm not being met. And now, he's feeling that moment in full force. You didn't slam the door. You didn't scream. You just didn't stay. You moved on in a way that made it clear there's no coming back. And it's only now, after the fact, that he realizes just how wrong he was to assume you'd be waiting. The messages he used to ignore are now the ones he reads in silence. The comfort of knowing you'd always reach out has vanished. And the longer the silence stretches, the more real the loss becomes. He may be telling himself he still has time. That may be in a few weeks or months. He'll be ready to come back with the right words. But what he doesn't understand is that time changed you. The waiting changed you. You grew stronger. You stopped seeing him through the lens of potential and started seeing him for who he really was, someone who couldn't love you the way you needed to be loved. Now, when he thinks about you, it isn't with certainty, it's with doubt. He doesn't know where you are emotionally. He doesn't know who has your attention, and that unknown is haunting him. Because for the first time, he's realizing that he isn't entitled to your presence, your forgiveness, or your patience. That kind of love expires when it's not valued. And now that it's gone, the clock he thought would always wait for him has stopped ticking. For good. His apology won't heal him, because regret can't rewrite character. Saying sorry might bring temporary relief, but it doesn't erase who he was when it mattered most. When the moments came to show up for you, to be accountable, to choose love over pride, he didn't. And no matter how sincerely he apologizes now, it doesn't undo the choices he made when your heart was on the line. He may feel the weight of that now. He may finally understand what he lost, but regret, even when it's genuine, doesn't equal growth. It doesn't prove he's changed. It only proves he's hurting. He's sorry, but he's sorry for himself. For the ache of your absence, for the pain of knowing he had something extraordinary and treated it like it was optional. That sorrow is real, but it's also self-focused. It's about the emptiness he feels, the comfort he no longer has access to, the warmth he thought would always be there. And the problem is, he still sees healing as something you might offer him, as if your forgiveness would be a balm, your understanding a shortcut back to peace. But healing doesn't come from being taken back. It comes from being held accountable, by life, by silence, by time. He wants to believe that a well-crafted apology is a key that unlocks the door he closed with his own hands. But what he doesn't see is that the door doesn't exist anymore. You didn't just walk away. You rebuilt. You outgrew the version of yourself that was constantly waiting for him to change. You stopped needing the apology to move forward, and that's what really stings. Because now, even though he's ready to say everything you once begged to hear, there's no one on the other end holding out hope for those words. Character isn't proven when everything falls apart. It's built in the daily choices that hold a relationship together. And in those moments, he chose ego, he chose avoidance. He chose silence when you needed communication, distance when you needed closeness, indifference when you needed care. Those weren't accidents. Those were patterns. And even if he's finally ready to break them, it doesn't erase the damage they caused while they were still his default. You lived through the consequences of those choices. You felt the confusion, the doubt, the slow erosion of your self-worth while loving someone who couldn't meet you emotionally. He might be doing the work now, reflecting, growing, even genuinely wishing he had been better. But healing for him can't involve you fixing what he broke. That's not your job. It never was. He has to sit with what he lost and understand that some lessons don't come with second chances. You were the wake-up call, not the reward for his eventual growth. And while he might go on to become a better man, more emotionally available, more self-aware, it will be someone else who sees that version of him. You weren't meant to suffer through his immaturity just so someone else could benefit from the final product. That's the real cost of choosing ego over love. You lose people who loved you before you learned how to love them back. He knows that now. And maybe that's why the apology feels so hollow. Because it's too late. Because even if you hear it, you've already found peace. And the version of you who once clung to the hope of those words no longer exists. You don't need closure. You became it. And that's a truth he'll have to carry long after the apology has left his lips. This isn't just about him choosing ego, it's about what that choice cost him. He thought he was protecting himself. He thought pride made him strong, but all it really did was push away the one person who saw him fully and still chose to love him. And now karma has arrived, not in the form of punishment, but through reflection, through regret, through the silence where your love used to live. Because love doesn't beg. It doesn't wait forever. It doesn't keep showing up for someone who won't meet it halfway. You gave him chances. You gave him time. And when he kept choosing distance, you finally chose yourself. That was the moment everything changed. Not for you, but for him. That was the moment he realized he wasn't the one in control anymore. And now he's left with the weight of everything he never said, everything he never did, everything he finally understands. Too late. So let that be your reminder when someone can't choose you over their ego. Walk away with your dignity intact, not to hurt them, not to prove anything, but because your peace is too expensive to spend on someone still learning how to value it. Let them feel the loss. Let them grow without you. That's not cruelty. That's self-respect. That's your healing. And that's the kind of ending that doesn't need revenge because the lesson is already loud enough.